Why is Japan frantically preparing a second capital? For decades, Tokyo has always been seen as a symbol of Japan's economic, political, and technological power. This is one of the world's largest megacities, home to the imperial family, the national diet, the prime minister's office, central ministries, the headquarters of most leading enterprises, and a globally influential financial system. However, this very over-concentration creates a paradox. The more resources are concentrated in a single location, the higher the risk if that location faces a disaster. That is why for many years, Japan has continuously researched plans to build a second capital, or more accurately prepare a backup administrative center capable of replacing Tokyo in an emergency. What is noteworthy is that this is not an idea that emerged after a single event, but rather the result of decades of risk assessments on earthquakes, tsunamis, volcanoes, climate change, national security, and the state apparatus's operational continuity. When looking at the entire picture, it can be seen that Japan's preparation for a second capital does not reflect pessimism, but reflects how a highly governed nation prepares for the worst-case scenarios to minimize damage. To understand why this issue has become urgent, one must first look at Japan's unique geographical location. Japan is located on the Pacific Ring of Fire, where four major tectonic plates interact with each other, including the Pacific Plate, the Philippine Sea Plate, the Eurasian Plate, and the North American Plate. As a result, this country endures about 10% of the strong earthquakes worldwide, although its area accounts for less than 0.3% of the Earth's landmass. On average, every year, Japan records thousands of measurable earthquakes, of which dozens are strong enough for people to clearly feel. Earthquakes in Japan are not a rare phenomenon, but rather almost a part of daily life. Construction, education, drill, and urban planning systems are all designed around this reality. However, what worries the government is not frequent earthquakes, but the potential emergence of mega-earthquakes of massive magnitude. One of the most serious threats is the Nankai Trough subduction zone located off the southern coast of Japan. Many Japanese government studies suggest that in the next few decades, the probability of a massive earthquake occurring in this region is very significant. Such an earthquake would not only generate tremors, but could also trigger a large-scale tsunami, affecting many coastal prefectures and causing economic damages of up to hundreds of trillions of yen in the worst-case scenario ever published by authorities. Although Tokyo does not lie directly on the Nankai Trough, it is still affected by many other fault lines. More importantly, this city is the country's operational center. If the transportation, electricity, telecommunications, and administrative systems are paralyzed for a few days or weeks, the impact will spread across the entire Japanese economy. History has repeatedly proven that this is not a hypothetical worry. In 1923, the Great Kanto Earthquake with a magnitude of about 7.9 on the Richter scale devastated Tokyo and Yokohama. More than 100,000 people were killed or went missing. Hundreds of thousands of buildings were destroyed, and many areas were engulfed in flames. This remains one of the most severe natural disasters in Japanese history. Nearly a century later, in 2011, the 9.0 magnitude Tohoku earthquake and tsunami caused an unprecedented crisis since World War II. Around 20,000 people died and went missing. The Fukushima nuclear power plant experienced a severe accident, triggering an energy and environmental crisis. Although Tokyo was not the epicenter, the national economy still suffered profound impacts. Global supply chains were also disrupted because many Japanese technology and manufacturing businesses had to halt operations. The 2011 event provided a very clear lesson. Even if the capital is not directly destroyed, the fact that critical infrastructure is affected is enough to cause difficulties for government and business operations. This more strongly propelled plans to build backup capabilities for the state apparatus. From a national governance perspective, the biggest issue is not protecting every single building, but ensuring the continuity of the government. In modern governance, there is a concept applied by many nations called continuity of government, which means ensuring the government can still operate even in the event of war, natural disasters, or terrorism. This includes alternative command systems, backup data centers, independent information networks, and backup workspaces for leaders. Japan applies this mindset very seriously. If the entire administrative apparatus is concentrated in Tokyo, just one major incident could cause decision-making to be disrupted. In the first hours following a disaster, a delay of just a few hours could significantly increase casualties and property damage. For this reason, the idea of a backup administrative center is seen as a strategic layer of insurance. It is not intended to replace Tokyo during peacetime, but rather to ensure the country can still be governed when a crisis occurs. Another reason stems from Tokyo's excessive concentration. The Tokyo metropolitan area currently has nearly 40 million residents, if counting the entire capital region, making it one of the most populous urban areas in the world. Not only the population, but the majority of central agencies, major banks, stock exchanges, technology corporations, and leading enterprises are all concentrated here. This concentration brings about tremendous economic efficiency. Businesses easily access human resources, infrastructure, and markets. The government also easily coordinates policies. However, this model has a distinct weakness. If an extreme event occurs, the extent of damage would be much greater compared to a scenario where functions are reasonably dispersed. This is the reason many Japanese experts have repeatedly proposed reducing the dependence on Tokyo by moving some administrative or research functions to other localities. In fact, the idea of relocating the capital is not a new one. Since the 1990s, the Japanese National Diet has discussed the possibility of relocating the capital or building a new administrative center. Many locations were previously studied, especially the area situated between Gifu, Aichi, Mie prefectures, or some areas within the Tochigi and Fukushima regions. The selection criteria are not simply an abundance of land. The location must have a lower disaster risk, convenient transport connectivity, and enough distance from Tokyo to avoid being affected by the same disaster, while still being close enough to maintain coordination. However, the project has never been implemented into a complete capital relocation. The first reason is the extremely massive cost. Building a new administrative center with complete infrastructure, housing, transportation, information systems, and state agencies could cost tens of billions of USD, or even more. The second reason is the political factor. Determining which locality will become the new center always comes with debates over regional interests. Any decision could provoke reactions from other localities. The third reason is economic efficiency. Tokyo has already formed a complete ecosystem over many decades. Relocating entirely is not only costly, but also risks reducing operational efficiency for a long time. Therefore, instead of completely moving the capital, Japan increasingly tends to build backup systems. One of the important directions is data decentralization. Many government and corporate data centers are located in various different localities to avoid losing all information if one region encounters an incident. Cloud computing systems, backup transmission networks, and remote operation centers are increasingly heavily invested in. The COVID-19 pandemic also accelerated this trend. When many officials and employees could work remotely, the government realized that not every activity needs to be concentrated in a building in Tokyo. This creates a more flexible model, in which critical functions can be maintained from multiple different locations. Parallel to that is the decentralization of central agencies. In recent years, Japan has moved some agencies or research departments out of Tokyo to ease pressure on the capital and promote local development. Although the scale is not yet large, this trend reflects a long-term strategy of reducing concentration levels. A less noticed but increasingly important factor is climate change. Tokyo faces the risk of flooding due to extreme rainfall and rising sea levels. The city has invested in famous flood prevention structures, such as the Metropolitan Area Outer Underground Discharge Channel. This is one of the largest flood control facilities in the world. However, Japanese engineers also admit that no system guarantees absolute safety against all scenarios. As extreme weather phenomena occur with higher frequency, preparing multiple layers of protection becomes more necessary than ever. From a national security perspective, preparing a backup operational center is also related to the changing strategic environment in East Asia. Japan in recent years has sharply increased defense investment amid the emergence of numerous regional security challenges. Although natural disasters remain the top threat to the capital contingency plan, policymakers also account for other risks such as cyberattacks, satellite disruptions, infrastructure sabotage, or regional crises. A modern government needs not only sturdy buildings but also the ability to maintain communications, protect data, and make decisions in any situation. Looking more broadly, Japan is not the only country considering building or developing a new administrative center. South Korea built Sejong City to transfer a portion of its administrative functions out of Seoul. Indonesia is constructing the Nusantara capital to reduce pressure on Jakarta and tackle environmental issues as well as overpopulation. Malaysia developed Putrajaya into a new administrative center, while Kuala Lumpur retains its role as the economic hub. These examples show that many nations are finding ways to reallocate governance functions rather than placing all resources into a single metropolis. However, Japan's case is distinct. The primary driver is not expanding development space or reducing traffic congestion, but rather mitigating risks from natural disasters and ensuring the continuity of the state apparatus. In other words, this is risk management thinking much more than simple urban planning. Even so, a perspective also exists arguing that building a second capital might not be the optimal solution. Some experts argue that digital technology has changed the way governments operate. With modern telecommunications infrastructure, cloud computing, video conferencing, and distributed data systems, many agencies can coordinate without needing to be co-located in the same city. According to this view, instead of building a new capital at enormous cost, Japan should invest more heavily in remote working capabilities, data center networks, digital infrastructure, and distributed command systems. This is a well-founded perspective, because the cost of building a complete administrative city would be massive in a context where Japan is facing high public debt and an aging population. On the contrary, supporters argue that technology cannot completely replace physical infrastructure. In an extreme disaster, electricity, the internet, or telecommunications networks could all be disrupted. At that time, a previously prepared operational center with full facilities would provide a higher response capability. Reality shows that these two approaches are not mutually exclusive. Japan tends to combine both, strengthening digital infrastructure, while simultaneously preparing backup locations to ensure operational capability in the most severe scenarios. The lesson to learn from Japan lies not in whether to build a new capital or not, but in the method of thinking. This nation does not wait until a disaster strikes to find solutions. They invest in scientific research, build risk scenarios, organize frequent drills, update construction standards, and continuously adjust policies according to new data. That is an approach based on probability and resilience. The goal is not to completely eliminate risks, as that is almost impossible, but to minimize damage when risks occur. The second capital concept must therefore be understood correctly. To date, Japan has not officially decided to move its capital out of Tokyo. What is being promoted is building backup capacity, decentralizing critical functions, and preparing alternative operational centers if an emergency situation arises. Some proposals in the past aimed at building a new administrative center, but they have not been rolled out into a comprehensive capital relocation project. This very cautious approach reflects an outstanding characteristic of Japanese governance. The nation frequently facing natural disasters has accepted that nature cannot be controlled, but response capabilities can absolutely be enhanced through planning, technology, and early preparation. When looked at from that angle, the story of a second capital is not just an issue of a city or a construction project. It is a manifestation of national governance thinking in the 21st century, where power is no longer solely measured by economic or military scale, but also by the ability to maintain operations in the face of massive shocks. For Japan, preparing for the worst-case scenario is not a sign of fear, but a way to protect the long-term stability of the country. And that very spirit of preparation has become one of the vital foundations helping Japan maintain its resilience after many major upheavals in modern history.